The sun had barely risen over the small village of Umuaka when Amora Okafor was already awake. The sound of roosters crowing echoed through the dusty paths that connected the mud houses scattered across the village. Children prepared for school while women swept their compounds with handmade brooms. Amora sat outside her family's tiny house, reading an old biology textbook. The book was torn. Several pages were missing. Yet she read it as though it was the most valuable treasure in the world. She had one dream. One dream that kept her awake at night. One dream that made every hardship worthwhile. She wanted to become a doctor. Amora, her mother called from inside. Yes, Mama. Come and help me prepare the cassava before you go to school. Amora quickly stood up. Their family was poor. Painfully poor. Since her father died 5 years earlier, life had become a daily struggle. Mama Ngozi worked tirelessly selling gari at the local market. Some days they ate twice. Some days they ate only once. But despite everything, Amora remained the best student in her school. Teachers admired her. Students respected her. Even the village chief often praised her intelligence. One afternoon, after school, the principal called her into his office. Amora, I have wonderful news. Her heart raced. What is it, sir? The principal smiled. You scored the highest result in the state scholarship examination. Amora froze. What? You have been offered provisional admission into a prestigious university in Lagos. Tears immediately filled her eyes. For years she had prayed for this moment. Years. Finally, her dream seemed within reach. She ran all the way home. Mama. Mama Ngozi dropped the basket she was carrying. What happened? I got in. You got in. I got admission. I can study medicine. Mother and daughter embraced tightly. Both cried tears of joy. For the first time in years, hope filled their tiny home. That evening they celebrated with the little food they had. Even Chinedu danced around the compound. Everything seemed perfect. Until reality arrived. A week later, the university sent details of tuition fees, accommodation cost, books, and registration expenses. The amount was enormous. Far beyond what Mama Ngozi could afford. The woman sat silently holding the paper. Her hands trembled. Amora watched her. Mama. No answer. Mama. Slowly, tears rolled down the older woman's face. My daughter. Amora's heart sank. We cannot afford this. The words felt like a knife piercing her chest. For several seconds neither spoke. The dream she had carried for years suddenly felt very far away. Days passed. Mama Ngozi visited relatives. Nobody could help. She approached lenders. They refused. She even tried selling a portion of the family's land. There were no buyers. Meanwhile, university registration deadlines drew closer. One evening Pastor Samoa visited. He looked unusually serious. There may be a solution. Both women looked up. What solution? Mama Ngozi asked. The pastor hesitated. Then he spoke. A wealthy businessman from Lagos is visiting the village next week. How does that help? Amora asked. The pastor sighed. Chief Emeka is. The name was familiar. Everyone in the village knew him. A billionaire. Owner of several companies. Extremely wealthy. He is looking for a wife for his son. The room became silent. Very silent. Then Mama Ngozi frowned. What are you saying? Pastor Samuel lowered his voice. The chief's family wants a humble, educated village girl. Amora immediately stood. No. The pastor continued. If the marriage happens, your family's problems will disappear. No. You could help your mother. No. You could help Chinedu. No. Amora stormed outside. Her heart pounded. Marriage. At 19. Before university. Before becoming a doctor. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Yet that night she could not sleep. She listened as her mother cried quietly inside their room. The sound broke her heart. The next morning she found Mama Ngozi sitting alone. Mama. The woman looked up. Her eyes were swollen. You heard everything? Yes. Mama Ngozi shook her head. I will never force you. Amora sat beside her. How much do we owe? The woman remained silent. Tell me. After several minutes the truth emerged. The debts were enormous. Far worse than Amora imagined. The family was close to losing everything. Even Chinedu's education was at risk. That night Amora stared at the stars. She thought about medicine. She thought about university. She thought about her father's dying wish. Take care of your family. The words echoed inside her head. Again. And again. And again. 3 days later, luxury vehicles entered Umuaka. The entire village gathered. Children ran alongside the convoy. Women whispered excitedly. Chief Emeka Is had arrived. The richest man many of them had ever seen. His white clothes sparkled. His expensive wristwatch alone could probably buy half the village. Amora stood nervously beside her mother. Then she saw him. Turned Is. The billionaire's son. Tall. Handsome. Quiet. Different from what she expected. Their eyes met briefly. Neither spoke. Inside the chief's temporary residence, discussions began. Hours passed. Questions were asked. Backgrounds were checked. Family histories examined. Finally, Chief Emeka smiled. We approve. The room erupted with excitement. Mama Ngozi looked conflicted. Pastor Samoa smiled. Villagers celebrated. Only Amora remained silent. Very silent. Because she understood what everyone else ignored. The price of saving her family was the death of her dream. As the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, she walked alone toward the river. Tears streamed down her face. Tomorrow she would give her answer. And deep inside, she already knew what that answer would be. The morning after Chief Emeka Iza's visit, the entire village of Umuaka buzzed with excitement. Women gathered around water wells discussing the news. Men sat beneath the old mango trees sharing opinions. Children ran through dusty paths pretending to be members of the billionaire's convoy. Everyone was talking about one thing. Amora Okafor. The poor village girl who might soon become the wife of a rich man's son. But while the village celebrated, Amora sat alone beneath the large iroko tree near the river. Her eyes were fixed on the flowing water. The same river where she had spent countless afternoons studying her school books. The same river where she used to imagine herself wearing a white doctor's coat. The same river that had witnessed every dream she ever had. Now those dreams felt like distant memories. She heard footsteps approaching behind her. It was Boma. Her childhood best friend. Boma sat beside her without saying a word. For several moments they simply watched the water. Then Boma finally spoke. Everyone is celebrating. Amora smiled weakly. I know. But you are not. Amora looked away. You already know why. Boma nodded. You wanted university. I still do. You wanted to become a doctor. Amora swallowed hard. More than anything. Boma turned toward her. Then why are you even considering this marriage? For a moment Amora remained silent. Then tears filled her eyes. My mother is drowning in debt. Boma, we barely have food some days. My brother may have to leave school. The landlord wants payment. The farm is failing. She wiped her eyes. If I walk away from this opportunity, what happens to them? Boma had no answer. Because she knew Amara was right. Sometimes life forces people to choose between their dreams and their responsibilities. And those choices were never fair. That evening Amara finally made her decision. The entire family sat together inside their small house. The kerosene lamp flickered softly. Mama Ngozi looked nervous. Amara. The young woman raised her head. I will do it. The room became silent. Even Chinedu stopped eating. Mama Ngozi stared at her daughter. What did you say? I will marry Tond. Immediately tears streamed down Mama Ngozi's face. No. You don't have to do this. Amara forced a smile. I want to. But everyone knew she was lying. Even herself. The truth was simple. She was sacrificing her future to save her family. 3 weeks later, preparations for the wedding began. It became the biggest event Umuoka had seen in years. Luxury vehicles arrived almost daily. Tailors brought expensive fabrics. Decorators transformed the village square. Food vendors prepared enormous quantities of meals. People came from neighboring villages just to witness the spectacle. Meanwhile, Amara moved through every preparation like someone trapped in a dream. Everything happened so fast. Too fast. One afternoon she was fitted for her wedding gown. The dress was breathtaking. Far more beautiful than anything she had ever imagined. The designer smiled proudly. You look like a queen. Everyone agreed. But Amara looked at herself in the mirror and felt strangely empty. Because she wasn't seeing a queen. She was seeing a girl saying goodbye to her dreams. The wedding day finally arrived. The church overflowed with guests. The village had never seen such wealth. Politicians arrived. Businessmen arrived. Celebrities from Lagos arrived. Even local journalists came to cover the event. People couldn't stop talking. A poor village girl is marrying into one of the richest families in Nigeria. To them it sounded like a fairy tale. A miracle. A blessing. Yet as Amara walked down the aisle, her heart felt heavy. Very heavy. At the altar stood Tond Is. Handsome. Elegant. Calm. Unlike everyone else, he wasn't smiling excessively. He looked thoughtful. Almost sad. When their eyes met, Amara noticed something unexpected. He looked just as trapped as she felt. The ceremony continued. Vows were exchanged. Prayers were offered. Then came the words that changed everything. I now pronounce you husband and wife. Thunderous applause erupted throughout the church. The crowd celebrated wildly. But Amara felt as though a chapter of her life had just closed forever. A few days later, she left Umuoka. The journey to Lagos was unlike anything she had experienced. Tall buildings. Busy roads. Luxury cars. Massive shopping centers. Everything felt overwhelming. Eventually they arrived at the Is family estate. Amara nearly stopped breathing. The property looked more like a palace than a home. Massive gates. Beautiful gardens. Fountains. Luxury vehicles parked everywhere. Uniformed security guards. Servants moving about efficiently. It was a completely different world. One servant carried her luggage. Another offered refreshments. A third escorted her to her room. When the door opened, Amara froze. The room alone was larger than her family's entire house. The bed was enormous. The furniture looked expensive. There was even a private balcony overlooking the city. Any other girl would have been ecstatic. But instead Amara felt strangely uncomfortable. The luxury felt unfamiliar. Almost frightening. That evening she attended her first family dinner. And that was when she met Edeora. Tom's cousin. The moment Edeora entered the dining room, Amora sensed trouble. The woman wore expensive jewelry, designer clothing, and an expression filled with arrogance. Edeora looked Amora up and down. Slowly, deliberately. Then smiled. Not a friendly smile. A cruel one. So this is the village girl. The room became awkwardly quiet. Amora forced a polite smile. Good evening. Edeora laughed softly. My goodness. What a strong village accent. Chief Emeka frowned. Edeora. But the woman continued. I'm simply surprised. She looked directly at Amora. I expected someone more sophisticated. Amora felt heat rise in her face. Yet she remained silent. Tom spoke for the first time. That's enough. Edeora raised an eyebrow. Oh. Leave her alone. The woman smirked. But finally stopped. Later that night, Amora sat alone on her balcony. The city lights sparkled beautifully below. Yet she couldn't stop thinking about dinner. For the first time she realized something important. Money didn't automatically bring happiness. Money didn't automatically bring kindness. Money didn't automatically create love. The next few weeks were difficult. Very difficult. Although most servants treated her respectfully, many members of the extended East family did not. Some whispered behind her back. Others openly mocked her village background. They called her names. Gold digger. Poor girl. Farm girl. Fortune hunter. Every insult cut deeply. But Amora endured it all. Because she kept reminding herself why she was there. Her family. One evening she received a phone call from Mama Ngozi. The moment she heard her mother's voice, tears filled her eyes. Mama. My daughter. How are you? Mama Ngozi sounded happier than Amora had heard in years. The debts are gone. Amora smiled. The debts are gone. All of them. And Chinedu? His school fees have been paid. Amora closed her eyes. For the first time since the wedding, she felt peace. Maybe the sacrifice had been worth it. Maybe. But she had no idea that something far more shocking awaited her. A few days later, while walking through one of the estate's corridors, she accidentally overheard an argument. The voices came from Chief Emeka's private office. She recognized one voice immediately. Turned. The other was his father. You forced this marriage. Ton shouted. Amara froze. Her heart skipped a beat. Chief Emeka responded angrily. Lower your voice. You never gave me a choice. You needed stability. You needed responsibility. I needed freedom. Amora's stomach tightened. What were they talking about? Then came the sentence that changed everything. The sentence that made her blood run cold. I never wanted to marry her. Silence. Complete silence. Amora felt her heart shatter. The words echoed repeatedly inside her head. I never wanted to marry her. I never wanted to marry her. I never wanted to marry her. Without making a sound, she slowly backed away from the office. Tears filled her eyes. Everything suddenly made sense. The sadness in Ton's eyes. His distant behavior. His emotional walls. He hadn't chosen her. Just as she hadn't chosen him. Both of them were trapped inside a marriage neither truly wanted. But as painful as that realization was, an even bigger secret was about to emerge. A secret hidden deep within the East family. A secret capable of destroying everything. And Amora was about to discover it. The words refused to leave Amora's mind. I never wanted to marry her. For 3 days, she replayed them over and over. Every morning. Every afternoon. Every night. No matter what she did, The sentence followed her like a shadow. The luxurious mansion suddenly felt colder. Larger. Lonelier. She still smiled whenever servants greeted her. She still answered family members politely. She still called Mom Ngozi and pretended everything was perfect. But inside, something had broken. One evening, she sat alone on her balcony watching the lights of Lagos. The city looked beautiful from a distance. Thousands of lights stretching endlessly into the darkness. People below were laughing, driving, walking, living. Yet she felt trapped. A prisoner inside a golden cage. The balcony door suddenly opened. She turned. It was turned. For several seconds, neither spoke. The silence between them had become normal. Awkward. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Finally, Tond cleared his throat. "Can I sit?" Amora nodded. He sat across from her. Again, silence. Then he sighed. "I know you heard us." Amora's heart skipped. So he knew. She looked away. "I wasn't trying to listen." "I know." Another long pause followed. Tond stared at the city lights. "You deserve an explanation." Amora laughed bitterly. "Do I?" He looked ashamed. "Yes. You said you never wanted to marry me." The words hung between them. Painful. Sharp. Tond lowered his head. "I did." "Then why marry me?" He closed his eyes. "Because my father gave me no choice." Amora frowned. "What does that mean?" Tond hesitated. Then he spoke quietly. "There are things about this family you don't know." "What things?" Instead of answering, he stood. "Not tonight." Then he walked away, leaving Amora more confused than ever. The following week brought unexpected drama. Chief Emeka hosted one of his famous business parties. Important guests arrived from all over Nigeria. Politicians, bank executives, company directors, foreign investors. The mansion sparkled with luxury. Women wore expensive gowns. Men arrived in luxury cars worth millions. Amora felt completely out of place. She wore a beautiful emerald green dress chosen by one of the family stylists. Everyone complimented her appearance. Yet she felt nervous. Very nervous. As the evening progressed, she noticed something strange. Several guests were whispering whenever they looked at Tond. Others avoided discussing certain topics in front of him. A few even looked uncomfortable around Chief Emeka. Something was wrong. She could feel it. Later that evening, while walking toward the garden, she overheard two businessmen talking. They didn't notice her standing nearby. "Has anyone told the new wife?" The other man laughed. "Of course not. How long do you think they'll hide it?" "Not much longer." They both laughed. Then one of them lowered his voice. "The scandal nearly destroyed the family." Amora's heart raced. Scandal? What scandal? Before she could hear more, the men walked away. Questions flooded her mind. That night she couldn't sleep. At nearly midnight she left her room. The mansion was quiet. Most people were asleep. As she walked through a hallway, she noticed a faint light coming from the library. Curious, she approached. The door was slightly open. Inside sat Chief Emeka. Alone. Reading old documents. Amora was about to leave when she heard him speak. "Come in." She froze. He knew she was there. Slowly she entered. The billionaire looked older than usual. Tired. Almost vulnerable. "Sit down, Amora." She obeyed. Chief Emeka studied her face carefully. Then he sighed. "You have questions." Many questions. But she chose one. What secret is everyone hiding? The old man became silent. Very silent. For nearly a minute he said nothing. Then he stood, walked toward a cabinet, opened a drawer, and removed an old newspaper. He handed it to her. Amora looked down. The headline immediately caught her attention. Her eyes widened. The newspaper was almost 8 years old. And the headline read, "Billionaire's son involved in fatal accident." Amora looked up. Turned. Chief Emeka nodded slowly. Her hands trembled. She continued reading. Years ago, while studying abroad, Tond had been involved in a terrible car accident. A young woman had died. The media had attacked him relentlessly. Social media exploded with criticism. Newspapers called him reckless, heartless, privileged. The scandal nearly destroyed the East family name. Amora looked up in shock. But Chief Emeka interrupted. "Keep reading." She continued. Then her eyes widened again. A later investigation revealed something shocking. Tond wasn't driving. The driver had been someone else. A drunk friend. But by then public opinion had already condemned him. His reputation was destroyed. His life changed forever. He took the blame. Amora asked. Chief Emeka nodded. To protect someone. Who? The billionaire looked away. My daughter. Amora froze. What? My late daughter was driving. The room suddenly felt smaller. The billionaire's voice trembled. She panicked. Tond took responsibility. He sacrificed himself to protect his sister. Amora couldn't believe what she was hearing. Everything she thought she knew about Tond suddenly changed. The arrogant billionaire's son. The distant husband. The cold stranger. He wasn't any of those things. He was carrying a burden that wasn't even his. Chief Emeka sat heavily in his chair. My daughter later died from illness. The pain in his eyes was unmistakable. Since then, Tond has never been the same. For the first time, Amora understood. The sadness. The guilt. The emotional walls. Everything. Over the following days, Amora began seeing Tond differently. She paid attention. Really paid attention. And she noticed things she had missed before. He treated servants respectfully. He donated anonymously to charities. He secretly paid school fees for struggling students. He funded medical treatments for sick children. Yet he never told anyone. Never sought praise. Never looked for attention. The man behind the reputation was completely different from the man the world believed existed. One afternoon she finally confronted him. They were walking through the estate garden. Tond. He stopped. I know. His face immediately changed. My father told you? Yes. For a moment he looked angry. Then exhausted. I didn't want anyone knowing. Why? He smiled sadly. Because explanations don't change public opinion. Amora looked at him carefully. Why did you protect your sister? Tond stared at the flowers. Because she was terrified. Because she was family. Because I loved her. Amora felt something shift inside her. Something unexpected. Respect. Genuine respect. For the first time, she wasn't looking at her husband as the man who stole her dreams. She was looking at him as a human being. A wounded human being. Meanwhile, another storm was forming. Edeora had been watching everything. The growing understanding between Amora and Tond. The conversations. The laughter. The connection. And she hated it. Because Edeora had her own plans. Dangerous plans. For years she had expected to inherit a large portion of the East family empire. But Amora's arrival threatened that future. If Tond and Amora built a strong marriage, her influence would disappear. And Adeora wasn't willing to let that happen. One evening she met secretly with a man named Connor. A shady businessman. Known for corruption. Known for blackmail. Known for destroying reputations. She slid a large envelope across the table. Connor smiled. What exactly do you want? Adeora's eyes darkened. I want that village girl gone. Back at the mansion, Amora remained completely unaware. For the first time since arriving in Lagos, she felt hopeful. Maybe her life wasn't over. Maybe her story wasn't a tragedy. Maybe God still had a plan. That same night, while organizing some old documents in her room, she received an anonymous message. No name. No number. Just a photograph. Amora's hands began shaking. The image showed Mama Ngozi, her mother, standing outside their village house. Someone had clearly been watching her. Below the photograph were 5 chilling words. Leave the East family immediately. Amora felt cold fear spread through her body. Then another message arrived. Next time, we won't just watch. Her heart nearly stopped. Someone was threatening her family. Someone powerful. Someone dangerous. And she had no idea who. But one thing was certain. The real battle was only beginning. Amora stared at the phone screen. Her hands trembled violently. The photograph of Mama Ngozi remained there. Clear. Recent. Terrifying. Someone had traveled all the way to Umuaka. Someone had been watching her mother. And now that person was threatening her. For several moments she couldn't breathe properly. Another message appeared. You have 7 days. Amora's heart pounded. Leave the East family or your mother will suffer the consequences. The room suddenly felt cold. Very cold. She immediately called Mama Ngozi. The phone rang. And rang. And rang. No answer. Fear tightened around her chest. She called again. Nothing. Again. Nothing. Finally, after what felt like forever, her mother answered. Amora. The young woman nearly burst into tears. Mama. What happened? Are you okay? Of course. Is everything alright? Mama Ngozi sounded confused. Yes. Amora remained silent. Should she tell her? No. Not yet. She didn't want to frighten her mother. Nothing, Mama. I just wanted to hear your voice. After ending the call, Amora sat on her bed for hours. Thinking. Praying. Trying to understand who would do something so cruel. Then a frightening possibility entered her mind. Someone inside the East family. The next morning she decided to tell Tond. They met in the estate garden. As soon as he saw her face, he knew something was wrong. What happened? Without speaking, Amora handed him the phone. Tond read the messages. His expression darkened instantly. By the time he finished reading, his jaw was clenched tightly. Who sent this? I don't know. Have there been other messages? No. Tond looked furious. Not annoyed. Not frustrated. Furious. For the first time, Amora saw a different side of him. A protective side. You should have shown me immediately. I was scared. His expression softened. I know. He looked at the photograph again. Then at her. I promise you something. What? No one is going to touch your family. There was something in his voice. Something firm. Something reassuring. For the first time since receiving the threat, Amora felt slightly safer. That afternoon Tond called a meeting with his private security team. The best investigators money could buy. They immediately began tracing the anonymous messages, tracking numbers, checking locations, reviewing surveillance footage. Within 2 days they found something disturbing. The messages originated from Lagos, not Umuoka. Whoever was behind this was nearby. Very nearby. Meanwhile, Amara tried to continue life normally. But fear followed her everywhere. Every unknown number frightened her. Every unfamiliar face made her nervous. Every unexpected sound startled her. Then something happened that changed everything. One evening she overheard Edeora arguing on the phone. The conversation was heated. Very heated. Amara wasn't trying to eavesdrop. She simply happened to pass by. Then she heard her own name. And stopped. Adeora's voice was sharp. I paid you already. Silence. Then. I don't care what problems you're having. Another pause. Then. Just get rid of her. Amara froze. Her blood turned cold. Get rid of her? The woman continued. Do you understand how much is at stake? More silence. Then Edeora spoke again. If she remains in this family, everything changes. Amara's heart raced. Suddenly the threats made sense. The anonymous messages. The intimidation. The fear. Edeora. It was Edeora. Before she could hear more, her phone vibrated unexpectedly. The sound echoed through the hallway. Edeora immediately turned. Their eyes met. For one horrifying second, neither moved. Then Adeora's face changed. She knew. She knew Amara had heard everything. Without saying a word, Amara turned and hurried away. Her heart was beating so hard she thought it might explode. That night she told Ton everything. Every detail. Every word. Every suspicion. Ton listened silently. When she finished, his face looked darker than she had ever seen. You are certain? Yes. He stood. Immediately. Without hesitation. And walked toward Adeora's private wing of the mansion. Amara followed. Several family members heard the commotion and gathered nearby. When Ton entered Adeora's sitting room, she looked surprised. Then she saw Amara. And immediately understood. Ton. Enough. His voice was ice cold. The room fell silent. Tell me the truth. Edeora crossed her arms. I don't know what you're talking about. Ton stepped forward. Tell me the truth. For the first time, genuine fear appeared in her eyes. Still, she refused. Then Ton placed a folder on the table. The investigation report. Phone records. Financial transactions. Bank transfers. Evidence. A lot of evidence. Adeora's face became pale. Very pale. The room became silent. Chief Emeka entered moments later. Along with several other relatives. What is happening? Ton pointed toward the evidence. You should ask her. The billionaire reviewed the documents. As he read, his expression slowly changed from confusion to disbelief to anger. A level of anger Amara had never witnessed. Edeora. His voice trembled. Tell me this isn't true. Edeora looked around the room. Realizing there was no escape. No explanation. No excuse. Finally, she laughed. A bitter laugh. Then she exploded. Yes. Everyone froze. Yes, I did it. The room erupted. Family members gasped. Others shouted. Chief Emeka looked devastated. But Edeora wasn't finished. For years she had hidden her resentment. Now everything came out. I worked for this family. I sacrificed for this family. And then suddenly some village girl arrives and becomes more important than me. She pointed directly at Amora. She doesn't belong here. The room became chaotic. But Ton remained calm. Dangerously calm. What did you do? Adeora's expression hardened. I only wanted to scare her. The investigators disagreed. One of them stepped forward. That's not entirely true. Everyone looked toward him. He opened another fire. What he revealed shocked the entire family. Adeora had hired Connor. Connor had hired criminals. And those criminals had traveled to Umuaka. Not just to watch Mama Nosy. To attack her. The plan was interrupted only because local villagers recognized strangers near the house and reported them. Amora nearly collapsed. Her mother had been in real danger. Real danger. Not just threats. Not just intimidation. Actual danger. Chief Emeka looked horrified. Even Adeora seemed shocked. Apparently she hadn't known how far things had gone. The billionaire spoke only one sentence. Leave. Adeora blinked. What? Leave this house. Uncle. Leave. His voice thundered through the room. For the first time in her life, Adeora realized she had lost everything. The following week was emotionally exhausting. Police investigations began. Connor was arrested. Several criminals were arrested. The threat stopped completely. And Mama Ngozi was placed under additional protection. For the first time in weeks, Amora slept peacefully. But another challenge remained. One far more personal. One evening Ton asked her to join him on the rooftop terrace. The city lights sparkled below. The night breeze was gentle. For several moments neither spoke. Then Ton broke the silence. You almost left. Amora nodded. I considered it. I wouldn't blame you. Another pause. Then Amora asked a question. Why did you protect me? Ton looked away. As though searching for the right words. Finally he answered. At first, I did it because it was my responsibility. Amora listened carefully. Then, a small smile appeared on his face. Then it became something else. Her heart skipped. Turned. He took a deep breath. For a man normally so composed, he suddenly looked nervous. Very nervous. Do you remember the first day we met? Yes. I thought you hated me. Amora laughed softly. I thought you hated me too. He laughed. For the first time in a long time. A genuine laugh. Then his expression became serious. I didn't hate you. I hated the situation. So did I. Their eyes met. Neither looked away. Then Ton spoke the words neither expected. Somewhere along the way, that changed. Amora's heartbeat quickened. Because she knew exactly what he meant. It had changed for her too. The resentment. The anger. The distance. All of it. Slowly replaced by understanding. Respect. Friendship. And something deeper. Much deeper. Then Ton said quietly. I think I'm falling in love with you, Amora. Tears immediately filled her eyes. Not tears of sadness. Tears of relief. Because despite everything that had happened, despite the forced marriage, despite the secrets, despite the threats, despite the pain, she had fallen in love with him too. As Lagos glittered beneath the night sky, neither noticed Chief Emeka standing nearby. Watching silently. Smiling. Because for the first time since the wedding, he saw genuine happiness in his son's eyes. And for the first time in years, he felt hope. But neither Ton nor Amora knew that a far greater challenge was approaching. One capable of destroying the entire East Empire. A secret buried deep in Chief Emeka's business dealings. A secret powerful people were willing to kill for. And soon, that secret would place both Amora and Tond in unimaginable danger.